Hi folks, Harry Frank from GrayMachine.com here with another free tutorial, and today we're going to be talking about lens flares. Now, if you clicked on this tutorial and you have the intention of writing me and messaging me and telling me that lens flares are overplayed, overdone, and pointless, and save your time. I know that lens flares are a little overdone and people use them too much. However, they do have a certain amount of usefulness in our compositions, and we can hide them in the corner, get little punches of light, or just do little accents here and there. I completely understand that lens flares are, kind of overdone, but I've stumbled across a few kind of cool techniques that will breathe new life into the old After Effects lens flare. Now, this tutorial will be using mostly stuff that you'll find within After Effects CS3. I'll be using one third-party plugin. You might have heard of it, called Trapcode Shine. If you've not heard of it, then you've probably been locked in a closet for the last 5 years. However, everything else is going to be just using standard After Effects stuff. We're going to use a little bit of shape layers that we've now acquired in CS3, which are very cool. And we'll also be using, well, it is one of my tutorials, so we'll be using a lot of expression. So, bear with me on that. So anyway, let's dive right in and breathe some new life into old lens flares. So I did mention that this is going to require After Effects CS3 to get this full effect. However, if you are using something prior to CS3, there's a couple things you can skip that, well, it won't look as cool, but you'll still be able to follow along. And maybe this will be incentive to, get your boss to upgrade After Effects CS3, because you could be like, hey, look at this cool lens flare and stuff. So let's make our cool looking lens flare. I'm going to create a new comp. I'm just working in 640 by 480 for our tutorial purposes here, and I'll call this lens flare 2. Hit OK. Now I'm going to create a new solid. This will be black. Oops. Bring you over here. There we go. Black. And we'll call this flare. Now, whoops. Hit Shift Command Y, and I want to make this the comp size. So I was just testing you. I purposely didn't hit that. So you want to make this the size of the composition and hit OK so that the solid is the size of your comp. So I'm going to select that solid and go to Effect, Generate Lens Flare. Now, don't be embarrassed. This is lens flare. People make fun of you. You can say, well, just wait. And I say to you, just wait. This will start looking a lot cooler. So yeah, we've got this lens flare thing, and it's only so useful. But I'm going to set my lens flare to 105 millimeter prime. There's probably somebody out there that knows exactly what that means. I certainly don't, but I know it looks like that. It's kind of that bluish one. Now, what I'm going to do is go to Effect, Trapcode Shine. Now, what I want to do is tie the source point of the shine, that is this thing here, so where the center of the shine point is, and I want to have that be the same as the lens flare point. Now, we're going to have a lot of things start to tie together to where this lens flare center is. So instead of using this lens flare center inside of an effect and all that, I'm going to use a null object, and this will be the basis for the position for all of my objects. So I'm going to hit P to show my null position, and then select my flare layer and hit E, show my effects, and I'm going to twirl open shine and the lens flare. And I'm going to tie the flare center to the null position by option clicking or alt clicking in Windows on the stopwatch and pick whipping the position. Just like that. And then same for shine. So option alt click and pick whip. Come on, go up. There we go. The position of the null. Not the null itself, but target the null position. Just like that. Now if I move this null around, we see that the shine point is following the lens flare. Now this is actually pretty useful right on its own. This is breathing a lot more oomph and pizzazz into our old friend lens flare, not shine. Shine is breathing new life into lens flare. So if I go to the Shine settings here, I can go to Colorize and select one of, well, any presets here. I can use Electric, which is pretty useful, or Fire, or Mars. I'm going to stick with Fire. And I'm going to use a couple more things here. These are going to be the shape layers. Okay, so I'm going to turn these two layers off for now. And I'm going to go up to my tools here, and I'm going to select the star tool. And I'm going to tap the apostrophe key to turn on my little title safe grid here, so I can see the center point right there. And I'm going to draw a star from that center point out like that. And I'm going to go to the polystar settings here, go to polystar path, and go to the points, and turn this up to, let's say, about 32. Not about 32, exactly 32. Now, I'm going to duplicate that layer. And on this bottom one, I'm going to set the track matte setting to use the alpha matte of the one above. Essentially, we have two identical shapes, and one is kind of cutting out the other one. And I'm going to turn off the mask and shape path visibility. Say that 10 times fast. Mask and shape path visibility. That's this little switch right here. So it doesn't show us the vertex points and paths and all that. We just see the shapes. So watch what happens when I move this shape around here. Whoops, I didn't set this. Alpha matte to shape layer 2. There we go. Now if I move one of these shapes around, we get this interesting pattern resulting from the interference of one shape to the other. One shape is sort of cutting out the shape of the other. Now if I go in and tweak this a little more so that this second shape has just a slightly different number of points, and maybe the inner radius is a little different, so it makes it a little bigger. I can move this around, and we get this cool looking interference pattern. They used to use this back in the olden days, like in the 80s, and even the 70s, and probably before that, where they would have two transparencies of patterns like this printed on them, and they would lay these two transparencies on a backlit stand and shoot it from above and move this one around. Just physically move it with their hands and get these crazy patterns like this. You might recognize this, if you're old enough, from the old HBO intro where it goes boosh, like that. That's exactly what this is. I've also seen this in Soul Train. Okay, I TiVo Soul Train. It's interesting actually to watch, you know, the old graphics and stuff that they did back then, as well as pick up some sweet dance moves. But anyway, so this pattern here that we're getting is really cool, and I think it'll add something to our lens flare. So what we can do is take this top layer. This is the one I'm moving around. This one is not visible, although it's just acting as a track matte for the layer below, and as they intersect they have this cool pattern going on. So if I hit P to show the position of this, I'm going to connect the position to this null, and we'll move these down below. Oops, I've flipped my shapes around. There we go. And I turn back on this lens flare, and oops, that one doesn't need to be on. I need to turn on the lens flare. And if I move this null around, zoom out a little bit, we have this interference pattern following along with our flare. Now I can actually punch this up a little bit more by adjusting that inner radius of this second shape to give it a little more punch. So if I move this around, it'd be a little bit too much. But what I'm going to do is create a new adjustment layer and put this just above these two shapes here. And again, I'm going to put Effect Trapcode Shine and look at the source point, and also tie this source point to this null. So we've got some shine going on that's affecting this layer right here. So it's going to add some more light effect to this interference pattern that's going on.